Well, let me begin by thanking the members of the media for coming here today, and let me tell you why we asked you to come and what the purpose of the meeting is. I have grown increasingly alarmed at information that we've been receiving from NOAA about projected annual catch limits for FY 2013. FY 2013 begins, the fishing season begins May 1st, 2013, but the process is underway to set the annual catch limits now. We learned recently, within the last week, that, as has been reported in some places, including the Standard Times, that the annual catch limits will be, for 2013, will be dramatically lower than they were in 2012, ranging for a number of groundfish species from 50 to roughly 75%. What does this mean? It means that there will be an awful lot of ground fishermen and other businessmen in the Port of New Bedford who may well go out of business. Cuts like those to an industry that is operating on very thin margins right now will be devastating. And the purpose of this meeting is to get our heads around the gravity of this problem. I've asked leaders from both the scientific community here in New Bedford as well as the fishing community to offer their input to me, to have the benefit of their wisdom and knowledge in determining how we're going to go about fighting this off. When I say this, this is quite substantial. By our rough estimates, just very conservative estimates, if the annual catch limits that were recently proposed informally were put in place, the New Bedford economy generally would lose approximately $75 to $80 million annually. That would mean the loss of hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs in the fishing industry, as well as in ancillary industries on the shore side. We're not going to sit back. I can tell you this, we are not going to sit back and just let it happen to us, and that's why I called this meeting. At this point, in my view, all options are on the table. That means that we need to push back on the science, because the science itself, according to reputable scientists who follow this stuff, is dubious at best. Fishermen tell us repeatedly that there's still plenty of fish in the sea. It is a very difficult thing to measure exactly how many moving fish there are in any given spot in the ocean. We know that's a difficult task for the government, but the problem is that the government is not open to the possibility that they just might be wrong in the way they measure it. And that's the root of the problem, in my view, and what we have to do is push back on the science, and if that doesn't work, then we really need to be thinking about other steps, such as asking the Secretary of Commerce for an emergency declaration to freeze fishing regulations at FY 2000 level numbers. We haven't determined yet which path we'll take, but we need to do something. Sitting back and not acting is not an option. So what I've done here today is to get the input of trusted members of the industry as well as the scientific community, and we'll take this step by step. There are a couple of significant events coming up. One is on August 24th, there was a meeting of the Science and Statistical Committee of the New England Fisheries Management Council. This is the body that sets the scientific limits and proposes the annual catch limits for the fishery each year. This is where the science is made, and frankly, that committee is weighted heavily toward government scientists. That committee, in my view, has to open up the possibility of considering other scientific models. They are, in my view, wedded to old models that don't appear to work based on objective observation, and yet we're careening down a path because we've stuck to those models that is going to cause widespread damage to our local economy and to fishermen who've been fishing here in many cases for several generations. So we're going to take every step that is necessary to push back. We're going to be working closely with our federal delegation. We're going to be talking very closely with and to NOAA, and we're going to be talking to mayors of other ports to make sure that we build a consensus around our approach, because we have no choice, frankly. This could well be an enormous problem for not just, as I said, the local economy, but also to really the industry that represents the cultural soul of southeastern Massachusetts. There is a big threat, in my view, not just to the groundfish industry, but in the long term to the scallop industry as well. These catch limits do affect what scallopers do. Scallopers are subject, for instance, to annual catch limits on yellowtail flounder. That's one of the species that's affected by these proposed annual catch limits for 2013. The scallop industry is New Bedford's cash crop. We're not going to sit idly by and watch dubious science result in the whittling away of that industry as well. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. What I'd like to do next is call up a couple of people. First is Rodney Avila, who is a lifelong New Bedford fisherman whose family goes back in the fishing industry for several generations and whose family continues to be in the fishing business. Both his son and grandson are commercial fishermen fishing today. I'd like for him to offer his thoughts on how this will impact fishing families at a personal level and to explain why it is that these proposed cuts will force a lot of folks out of the business that their families have been in for a long time. And then after Rodney speaks, I want to offer a scientific perspective from Steve Cadron from SMAST, who also serves on the SSC. Rodney, would you come on up?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mitchell. I'm the fourth generation of my family fishing. My son is the fifth, and my grandson is the sixth. I commercially fished out of New Bedford 47 years. I owned 2 commercial fishing vessels at one point. Now I'm down to 1. Why I'm here is even if we get a cut of about half of what National Marine Fisheries is saying we need to sustain the fishery, the fishermen will not survive. The problem is there's not enough fish now to sustain the fishermen that are fishing. They have to buy fish. They have to buy quota from other fishermen that are not fishing. If you limit them down by, say, 50%, they're going to have to buy 50% more. With the increase of observer costs and fuel costs and all the other costs, they're not going to be able to purchase it. So the people that have quota and have sold their boats, there's been many boats sold out of here, and the quota is, they've remained with the quota to use as a sustainable income for the boat owner, is not going to be able to lease out his fish because nobody's going to be able to afford to buy it. So this is going to affect everybody in New Bedford, not only the fishermen. It's going to affect the shoreside businesses, the car dealerships, anybody that sells clothes. Any infrastructure in New Bedford is going to be affected by this. It will not survive it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Steve, would you come on up and tell us a little bit about the process in which the science is made that that NOAA adopts into its regulations?
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. I support the overall strategy of keeping many options on the table. The catch limits that are being announced assume that the scientific basis is accurate. Ironically, the primary reason for these crises in managing groundfish is because of the scientific failure to accurately project catch limits. And so what many of us hope in the decision-making process is that we can keep our minds open to alternative approaches that are both scientifically valid and are based on common sense. And so we hope that this process can consider alternatives that might help in the short term to sustain the fishery and sustain the resource. In the longer term, we need to invest in a better scientific system. We need to invest in better surveys, better monitoring, so that these frequent crises we have that are caused by science can be diminished so that we can truly have a sustainable fishing industry and a sustainable resource. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Steve. One thing that I'd like to point out is that this is not a call per se to allow fishermen to catch more fish, right? It's not just that. It's, look, do this fairly. Lay down some rules that are based in real science, science that people can be confident in, science that gives us a sense of what's out there and what's not out there. And that hasn't happened, and it's because the government has not been willing to open its mind up. And it's quite that simple. And I have to tell you, one of the things that frustrates me at a very personal level is that, I was in law enforcement at the federal level for some time. I worked with NOAA agents. I worked with NOAA on a handful of cases, and worked well with them. The problem I'm seeing now is that the government isn't, it is true that the government isn't nearly as open as it needs to be to get this stuff right. It's been an eye-opening experience for me in that sense, but I have to tell you that we're at a point right now where we've got to act act very deliberately but very directly as well. So that's what we plan to do. So stay tuned in the next few weeks. The SSC meeting is coming up in August 24th, and I just want to acknowledge the presence of everyone here who has supported these efforts today, and we've got some fighting ahead of us in the weeks to come. Thank you.
Mayor, we've had Barney Frank, we've had John Kerry, we've had previous mayors trying to make an impact with NOAA. What makes you think the chances are any better going through the regional council rather than taking it to the top?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive, so we've got to do a little bit of both, Jim. There are different pressure points, and we've got to apply ourselves to both, all three, to multiple levels. The SSC, which is a subcommittee of the New England Fisheries Management Council, the council itself, as well as the secretary.
So a delegation from New Bedford will be going to that meeting, obviously.
We'll have people there. But the other point is that, look, this has been an ongoing fight for a while. The level of urgency is ratcheted up now significantly, in my view. And look, we have to keep fighting. It's not, we're not. There's a lot at stake here, and rolling over, to me, is not an option. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I appreciate it.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you are really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.